Hey guys, I just wanted to talk to y'all about getting better pictures on your camera. Here I have a Canon T3i. The lens I use, it's my favorite lens. It's the macro 1.1 millimeter 3.6 foot. And it's a 55 to 250 mm, basically. I'm new to photography, so I don't know much, but this is just a lens I like using. I did a lot of research on like YouTube, and I could never figure out how to get good clear pictures because photography people don't like sharing their secrets as far as I can find. So I basically had to learn everything that I know from bits and pieces of what I could find online and from just going out and taking pictures. So the best thing that I learned how to do is when I'm out taking pictures, like there's this button, I don't know if you can see it, that button right there, and so it turns into view mode. And if you click it again, it goes to here and it shows your settings, but this is view mode. So what I do when I'm in there is you have your ISO, and when you click it, that's what pulls up. Now right now I have it to 6400 so that you can kind of see what's inside. But if you see on mine, I don't know about y'all's, but on mine you can do like this and it changes to what you need, and it'll show you a display of basically what you're going to be seeing. So, and that's auto. Auto works sometimes. I don't like using auto. So on a bright sunny day, I use ISO 200. Now if it's kind of cloudy, I'll use 400, but that's because mine, you know, I don't have it like a 300. But I use ISO 400 if it's like a overcast where there's clouds and stuff. And then so let me tell you how I used to shoot when I first started. Because everyone's like, oh, shoot on manual, and then you see all these manual settings and you're like, oh my god, what am I doing? Don't be afraid. So basically, when you put it in manual mode, you see these settings. I used to shoot my speed, my shutter speed. So this one, that is your shutter speed. I used to shoot it all the way up at 4,000. That's as high as mine will go. And that, you know, when I'm outside, I used to shoot that at 4,000, and then I would shoot my ISO at 6,400. And the pictures were okay, but you could just tell that the pictures were not good. Basically, they were good, but they weren't like what I can do now. And I'm still a beginner, but I'm basically wanting to share what I've learned because no one else does. Like, that's the point. So anyway, I learned that don't shoot all the way up. You know, I used to shoot all the way up because I was like, oh, the faster the shutter speed, there's not gonna be blur. It's gonna take a good picture because the shutter speed's so fast. That's not true, guys. I was naive, okay? So now I shoot on a shutter speed of 1 to 200. A 1 to 200. So then I also learned that your f-stop, that is your aperture basically. So aperture is how like your background blurs. It'll focus on just the person and then your background will blur. And I like those pictures. I like pictures of, I want the crisp picture of the person and then everything else is like blah. So that's your aperture, and that is this. That is this right here. So I learned with that. You know, I was like, oh, if I shoot all the way down, it'll be the best thing. You know, the person's gonna be pretty and the background's gonna be blurred as best as it could be. Not true either. I've learned that when you shoot, so when you go to your f-stop and you put it all the way down and you click it up about 2 or 3 clicks, that is the best picture you will get. And like I said, guys, I'm still learning, but this is what I've learned in a video. So I used to also shoot on manual autofocus. What I thought was in focus was not in focus. So I would shoot and I'd be like, okay, you know, that looks in focus, click, and then I'd put it on my camera or on my computer, and I'm like, this is not in focus, guys. Like, oh my god, what am I doing wrong? So I started shooting on autofocus. So when I started shooting on autofocus, my pictures got like so much better because it focused to what it was supposed to be. I also learned that this. Now, you can either do automatic selection, which will basically select what the camera thinks you're trying to point at. And to get to there, it's that button on, and I use the Canon Rebel T3i. So, on the Canon Rebel T3i, you would click this button, and it shows automatic selection. So, if you click set, it'll go to manual selection. So, basically, that in the middle. Then, when you're shooting, this is what's going to be in focus. That right there. So, and also you can move it if you want it exactly where you're at, but your model's in the wrong spot. Back up. But your model's in the right spot, and you know you can't get it to focus. So you can move it over here. I keep it in the middle, and what I do is I will focus on the model, and then I'll move over where I will take a picture, I will focus on the model of what I want it to focus on. And so this is basically what I'll do. I will say, here's my model. I will focus it here, and then say, here's where I want, I want a pretty background. So I'll focus it, and then I'll move it over until my model is in the corner of my screen, and this is the background. So once it focuses and you move it over, the focus is still set on the model. So to keep that, you want to choose that. On my camera down here, it's called One Shot, and this is the only camera that I know of. Like I said, I'm just starting out. I don't know other settings on other cameras. So mine is it's called One Shot. And basically, there's One Shot, there's owl focus, and that's like when the person's moving. Like this would be for like if you're videoing. So, and I don't video with this right now, but you have owl focus and then owl servo. But that's on moving objects, and it'll tell you what down here on what you're doing. I use One Shot because, like I said, I focus on one thing, I move it over, the person's in focus, and then you have the pretty background. And then I don't use the flash on here. I don't have an umbrella flash yet. I'm working on getting that, but I don't have that yet. So if you're shooting in manual mode and you do want to use your flash, I don't, because it's so harsh on the subject, and I just don't like the way that it comes out, basically. But if you do, usually there's this little button over here, like when you're shooting in manual mode, and you're trying to figure out how to get the flash up, that's how. You just push the button, and it comes up. And it won't use the flash unless you push the button and it pops up. So then, I use Photoshop and Lightroom. I use Photoshop for like if I'm outside and my subject has a shiny part of her face and I don't like that, or like if the sun hits it and it's very bright in that one spot. I use Photoshop to to change this part to the rest of her skin tone. I don't use Photoshop for anything else other than basically trying to fix parts of the face that is too shiny, or like if her face is oily, I fix the oil on their faces, shiny parts of their face. That's what I use Photoshop for, to fix. Other than that, I love Lightroom. Lightroom's the best thing that I can find. So then I use auto white balance. Mine's right here. I use auto white balance. A lot of people don't use auto white balance. I do. I use auto white balance for the fact of I just like the way it comes out. Now, you can change that to daylight, shade, cloudy, and you have these different settings, or you have a custom. I use auto white balance for the fact because some of those others are good, yes, but they just, I don't know, they just, sometimes they make the picture not come, like, so when you're using the sunny day, it makes your skin tone like really orangey-ish sometimes, and like shadow, it basically, I mean, it's the same with this. Let me see if I can find it. Auto white balance. So when you change it, if you go to this mode and you switch through, it'll show you basically what you're dealing with. And I use, like I said, I use this mode for when I'm trying to see what the best would be. And so I just use this mode a lot. And then when I get done messing with the settings for the occasion, I just click back and I use, that. And I shoot in RAW. So, okay, so that's another thing. I shoot in RAW. Shoot in RAW mode. If you don't have a software that processes RAW images, don't shoot in RAW. I shoot in RAW because you can make the most out of your editing, basically. So shooting in RAW gives you so much more opportunity to shoot or to edit better. Like, you can shoot good, and then, like, say if you when I used to shoot, my skies would be blown out. And what a blown out sky means is the sky's white. Like, my skies used to be white because of my settings that was on my camera. Like, I was just starting out and I didn't know what the settings were. So my skies were white, and I would shoot in RAW, and that made it where I can mess with the sky. I can fix the sky, or like if my highlights are way too high, I could bring the highlights down. But if you shoot in JPEG, you can only do so much. So I used to shoot in JPEG and RAW because I knew that I was going to get Lightroom and Photoshop to be able to mess with the RAW images, but I didn't have it yet. I was going to be a month or so. So I was shooting all my pictures in RAW, JPEG and RAW, so that when I wanted to go back and re-edit them in RAW and have a better picture, I could. And sure enough, my pictures turned out a lot better. So I'm going to show you a before and after picture of what my pictures used to be versus what they are now. So here's a before picture. And here's after. Like, this is the picture that I took recently, like not even 2 weeks ago. This is a picture that I took recently of my nephew, and the picture quality is just so much better versus what I used to shoot in. So this is of my nephew. Anyway, guys, I just wanted to share with y'all kind of what I've learned along the way because most photographers don't want to share their secrets. I don't care. If you have any other questions, I can answer them. I can make another video. This is my first video that I've made, so if it's a little bit not professional, I guess you could say, like, I'm new to this. I'm shooting this on my phone. I'm new to this, so I'm sorry if it's just a little bit so I mean, if y'all have any other questions, guys, let me know and I can answer them in the description, or not in the description. I can answer your questions in the comments. I stay active on my phone a lot on YouTube, looking up videos. So if you have any questions, just comment below. Thanks, guys.